So what I'm going to start off with is, and you'll see me gazing over, because I wrote myself an outline because I wanted to get in certain things, but I'm going to tell you what the outline's going to be. Um, I'm going to talk to you some about why I came to this topic of the idea of the self-pity versus self-compassion or self-compassion. And then we're going to get into defining some definitions of the two, and then have a period of practices, because that's kind of what it's all about anyway, is the practices of self-compassion. We'll do several things that I hope will kind of bring it home to you in a more familiar way, and hopefully something that you'll use after tonight. And then we'll wrap it up and have some questions and answers, or maybe even comments of your experience, because you may have some experiences when we do certain practices that I'll introduce, okay? So the way, I just wanted to start, why am I even doing this self-pity versus self-compassion, or self-pity? I don't know if it's versus really, but it is, the choice that we could have. And I thought of, the first time that I started hearing about self-pity a lot was my early recovery, coming into recovery myself. And I started hearing that was a topic in meetings a lot. And it was something that was presented as, some of you may know that saying or phrase that just goes, pour me a drink. It was something to watch out for. It was something that was familiar to, it had a relationship to self-centeredness, which is also something that was flagged early on, that is, you got to be careful about this, because this is where we can tend to relapse, right? Is in self-pity. And or the why me's is another way. I think I heard that it was kind of taught to me of what self-pity may be. So I went along, and at the same time, I was also learning about emotions. I was identifying, I definitely suffered from depression. I was identifying what's the difference between depression and my low feelings versus self-pity, just, the indulgence of self-pity. But it still it's always been something that I've kind of wondered about, because it's such and thought on and wondered, well, when is it okay, to be in but when is it okay to have this terrible thing that my sponsors would continually say to me, that is the human condition. It is where we all go. And I would then work with others, and I'd say, wow, it is where we all go, isn't it? So then around 2014, I got exposed to Brené Brown's work. And her work, that many of you know, is on shame. A lot of it's about shame and the toxic effects of that emotion that we're stuck with, because it's a tough one, but it's human again. And that self-compassion came up again, because that is one of the big antidotes to shame, is to have some self-compassion for this terrible suffering that we experience when we have, and I'll just define shame as the not good enoughs. When we feel small, when we feel puny, when we feel like we don't have enough, when we're scared, and less than. And it's a very difficult time, and a very, much a place of suffering. So she's a researcher. And so she's all about resources. And she then directed, my attention to the people who study and then practice self-compassion. Some of those are Kristen Neff and Chris Germer. And I'm going to post a really great resource list for you that you'll have, because these are all very generous people. They give you a lot of information, for free on their websites. But so that was interesting. I started practicing self-compassion and being led through meditations and things like that. And I felt it to be different than like just self-love or some of the other stuff that I'd been taught or people would say. And I felt the benefit of it. And then most recently, why it became of interest to me is that I was at a meeting, and a woman mentioned that for her, the way she detects self-pity for her is that she feels like she first slows down, right? I mean, we get taught to pause and slow down. So we slow down and we tolerate a feeling, an uncomfortable feeling. I think self-pity is, it's uncomfortable. But then she says, you know what I noticed? I noticed it's dishonest. It doesn't, and what she meant by that was that it was like tunnel vision. It was a piece of the pie, but it was a part of the mind that would just focus so much on the discomfort and the kind of the misery, right, of that feeling. And I thought that's a really great tip, kind of around, wow, it's kind of dishonest, and not that it's anything consciously dishonest, but that it was yeah, just again, a distorted perspective, which, right, and our disease likes distortion. Our disease of addiction likes distorted things. So those things, and I thought, wow, that works very well with the idea of self-compassion. Then would be, you know, how can we broaden the hyper focus that self-pity can take you to, and it can feel like your whole world, and it's the truth of the matter, that whatever you're telling yourself, whatever criticism, whatever dark thoughts, you know, whatever hardship that you're experiencing, it can feel like it's all encompassing. Okay, so that got me going. So not enough, you know, that was my interest. So I wanted to go to the definitions of self-pity and the definition that I'm working. I know there may be others, but these are the definitions that I'm working off of tonight. The definition of self-pity, and I went right to the dictionary, and what I found there was excessive dwelling or rumination on one's troubles or one's unhappiness. So excessive rumination and dwelling on one's unhappiness or one's troubles. It often correlates with feelings of shame. It often has of less than, the not good enoughs again. The not. There's also that distortion in self-pity of, and when I say distortion, because I think we're just looking at like a piece of our life usually. For me, when I'm in self-pity, I'm not making a gratitude list, put it that way, right? I'm not noticing like, well, I do have a roof over my head, or, you know, and so it's a piece of my life, okay? And there is a part that I think is part of what we are wary about and careful. You know, we were taught to be careful about this in our recovery, because there is a part of it that's self-indulgent, because we keep visiting it, right? We're going over it and over it. And I think that is normal for us to be a little worried about that, because isn't that what our addiction brought us to? Places of like overindulgence, overdoing things, right? So again, I kind of see the point of why we're always taught to pause and watch out for that. I don't know that I want to call it an emotion really, but the experience of self-pity. Okay. Self-compassion, let's define that. So the definition I'm working off of is self-compassion. And again, I go to the dictionary first, and then I look at like the researchers that are wonderful out there that are calling it certain things. But the dictionary goes into saying it's an extending of compassion to self. It's a gentle action. And in the word extending, what I liked seeing was the smaller word tending. There's a tending to self. And doesn't the word tending or tender feel like compassion? Yeah, I see some smiles, or just like, oh yeah, I know tender. I know tending. I know what all the mothers in there know what tending is, and good dads. I know there's all these good dads too out there. There's and then I'm going to go over, what is the truth of self-compassion, and that it's like where self-pity will say you'll have an inner critic and a judge on board in our committee when we're in self-pity. With self-compassion, we'll have kindness. Okay, we'll have self-kindness. We'll have like we'll be able to speak to ourselves the way we would say maybe a phrase toward a friend of ours, right? We wouldn't be as harsh. But in self-pity, we got the critics right here, man. It's talking. And it's, it's like we all know, well, I think so many, we don't really want to have self-pity, right? Wouldn't it be nice if I came on and I said, I've got a formula tonight and you're not ever going to have to feel that again. Y'all are like going to be done and we're all good to go. And sorry, it's not, doesn't work that way. It is going to be something that you have to, in a way, I think, befriend, so that the compassion that I've gotten from people in here when I'm in self-pity is what we're going to learn to give ourselves. But then also it's going to help us be more compassionate with others too. It's going to expand our ability. So the first truth about what self-compassion is that it has self-kindness in it. The second one is, well, let me first, because I started off with the first saying that the judgment. So the self-pity has a lot of components of isolation. It's a perspective of one, usually. Of mine, it's mine. And it usually is, I call it kind of spinning off. I can kind of feel when it's a sense of disconnection and I am spinning off and I'm alone and I'm isolated. So the opposite or component of self-compassion, the truth of self-compassion is that it's common humanity. Everyone experiences, everyone struggles. Everyone has days where their, perspective is off. Everyone suffers. You don't get out without it. You don't get out of this life without it. So common humanity. And then the third one is with self-pity, we'll over-identify with the story, the words, maybe whatever emotion we're having. We'll identify that this is who I am. I'm not good enough. It might be that might be one version of it. That's a little shame story. I'm not good. I don't have enough. I'm not going to get enough. It could be so many different things, but we're going to over-identify and feel like that's really all of who we are. And we're not, what I'm learning, and I love the language of using parts of us. No, it's a moment in time, and it is a part of us that feels these feelings deeply. So in self-compassion, we're going to look at how we're, with mindfulness, we're going to be mindful. Okay, so that's the third kind of truth. And we're going to know that, what I like, again, in our literature and way we're taught in recovery is that we pause and we slow down long enough to know that, okay, like I told you, I said, sometimes I feel that sense of, gosh, spinning off. And what I know is, I'm lonely, I think. I need to connect with a tribe member, whoever that may be, whether it's a, family tribe member or an AA tribe member, whatever, but it's time to connect. So there's a mindfulness and an attention that you give to what's going on with you. So then you can get what you need. Like you can reach out to find out, well, what do I need? Because I need something, self-pity, need something. And it's not of all as much as I might feel bad right now, I can know, and when I'm softening towards myself, I can know that I am not all that. And I know that this too shall pass as well. Because I know that more, especially if I reach out to someone, okay? I guess for right now, I'm wondering if it's a good time too, just if anybody feels an urgent need to ask a question about the definitions. And if not, we'll just keep moving on. And I wanted to do a meditation with you and take you through a self-compassion meditation. So we can, because it's a lot about experiencing it, not just like getting it up in the head. So unless someone has any burning desire, we're going to move into a meditation. Okay. And I'm just going to talk you through this. It won't be long. I'm going to try to keep it like down to 5 minutes or something. Okay. And just get comfortable in your seat and don't feel like you have to sit like perfectly still. Yeah, you can turn your camera off if you'd like, whatever you're comfortable with. It can be helpful to close your eyes because it just helps you pay attention inside. But again, that's not necessary. I'm happy to have you just look. You could do a soft gaze down, can also help you be internal. I want you to bring some awareness just to your breath. It's your natural breathing. You don't have to change anything. It's the inhale and the exhale. May do a general scan of your body, starting at your feet and going up your body. See if there's any particular energy that you want to breathe out with the inhale, breathing in, and the exhale, just to relax and release. I'd like you to bring up into your mind someone that you love, that's really easy to love though for you. Sometimes a child is a good choice, or even a pet. But someone that when you see them, there's no, it's just, the eyes twinkle a little and you have a real soft spot. Very easy to love, okay? See if you can bring that person up into your mind, or that animal. And I'd like you to imagine that they're going through a moment of struggle, and not the hardest thing that's ever happened to them. We start slow and we start smaller in our practices, but some form of a struggle, that they're in some level of some suffering, and you're with them. There's a little ouch they're going through. There's something that's stressful. There's something that hurts. So I'd like you to notice what you have to give them, what your energy is like in your body. And I use that word in extension. So how are you tending to them? Are you sitting quietly with them? Does your imagination have you sit quietly? Are you holding their hand? You may notice if you're leaning towards them, as you see that they're having a hard time. And I'd like you to see if you can notice where you feel that in your body. If you're able to pull up a sensation of tending and tenderness towards this person or animal. And just recognize it in your body. You may like to put your hand over your heart to bring, a lot of times people feel a warmth in their heart towards someone they care for. Or put your hand somewhere where it feels soothing. And I'd like you to imagine saying to them, May you be kind to yourself. May you know peace. May you be free from pain and suffering. May you be kind to yourself. May you know peace. And may you be free from pain and suffering. Again, just noticing how that lands for them. And how you feel by giving it, extending it to someone. And where you feel it in your body. Now I'd like you to bring your attention back to yourself and say kind of goodbye to your friend, your companion in this meditation, and bring your attention back to yourself. I'd like you to recall a moment in the last 2 days, let's say, when there was a small struggle you went through. It could be as small as that you lost your keys and you're running around the house and you're stressed out and it's hard. Or it may be something bigger, but don't pick anything too big, okay? We're going to pick a small moment of discomfort, of suffering, of unhappiness, okay? And at this point too, I'd like you to try your hand over your heart. Because I'm going to ask you to see if you can notice again where you extended, how you felt in a sensation place, in a physical way, towards this other loved one that you had. It's so easy to love. And I want to see if you can give yourself that energy. Can you extend that kind of tenderness, that kind of willingness just to be present with someone when they go through something hard? And a softening. If you have a critic on board, kind of saying some things, you just give me a little space. Because all you're trying to experiment with what does it feel like if we experiment with softening and tending in the way we would someone that's really easy for us to do that with. Okay. And then I'd like you to say yourself, may I be kind to myself. May I be free from pain and suffering. You may say things like, may I accept myself as I am. May I learn to accept myself as I am. May I be patient. May I be strong. Just see if your own phrase comes to you of what you may need. What kind of kind phrase that you'd easily offer a friend? Is there any kind phrase that comes that would be really nice for you to hear right now? And just keep that to yourself. What I like to think of is that we breathe it in. Breathe in the saying, breathe it into our hearts, and then we exhale it out. We breathe that wonderful saying, give it to ourselves, and we exhale it out and can give it to others. So first we give it to ourselves, and then we can exhale it out and give it to others. And when you're ready, let's just breathe your eyes open. So that's a little version of a loving kindness meditation, okay? Again, I'm going to give you so many resources, these generous people that do this work, and there are all kinds of meditations that are free that you can go on and have some guidance. But what I love about the meditations I've been learning and doing is that you not only get the new thinking on board, you get your body on board. There's sensation to softening. There's sensation to replacing that inner critic with a softer, version, softening. And I love that, or leaning into the hard stuff. I love that language. And so it's very available. Okay, another visual for you. Okay, practice here. I wanted to, and it'll hopefully it might help you. I'm going to go back to my definition of self-compassion. Okay, so here we go, and y'all do it with me. Okay, so we can just stay a little active, and you'll remember it. So I want you to have your fists like this. Okay, and here you are beating up yourself. Self-pity usually has a component. Okay, negative self-talk, inner critic. It's rough. All right. So we're going to stop that. We're going to pause. All we've got to do is slow down and pause a little bit. And we're going to open up to our minds and have what about the option of self-kindness and softening towards ourselves, opening. Then we're going to extend our hands. Okay, we're going to extend our hands, and we're going to realize that, God, I'm not alone. I was just talking to so-and-so the other day. Other people suffer too. Common humanity. And we have phrases. Well, why do we have a phrase for the pity pot and pity party? Guess what? We all know it, right? And then you're going to bring your hands into mindfulness. Can I use this heart muscle? That's what I like reminding us, that let's use this heart muscle that we have and cultivate the softening and the self-compassion. Okay, so here we go, beaten up, hands open to self-kindness, extension, common humanity. We all do this. Let's pull it into mindfulness and, the pause and noticing what's underneath that. What's underneath this, all these feelings I'm having. Okay. I think now it makes me think of what I wanted to point out too, because I do think it makes sense to me that in recovery, we're always guarding against like self-centeredness and self-indulgence and self-absorption, the ego thing. Like, self-pity has an egocentric nature to it. And we know that that's not, again, that's not where we want to live. So this information I found helps me get around that idea that because this is not self-indulgence. What self-compassion is learning, bringing it into yourself. And what they find is your ability to be more compassionate with others, really expands. So you're less judgmental, you're less critical. You're able to kind of sit with someone, and not fix them, good old Al-Anon stuff, and not like let them while they're having their day, I hope tomorrow's a better one. So that tending to yourself, it's like the mother who does the oxygen, right, on the plane, allows her to take care of the children, right? So it allows us to be of service and to be these other qualities that we know are, part of living a good life and everything. Let's see, another practice I like that is just a grounding. It's a way to kind of hold yourself, and it's developed. I got it from Peter Levine, who's this great teacher, psychologist, research guy that works in trauma, and he uses the body a lot. So one way that he found that it affects our nervous system and helps us feel calm and activates our parasympathetic nervous system is this particular hold. So I'm going to have you get your right hand and you're going to put it under your left armpit, right? And right around your ribs. Yeah, just put it right in there, tucked up into there. And you're going to take your left hand and you're going to wrap it around your upper arm. Just close your eyes for a minute. You may be self-conscious because we're all zooming here, but I got my eyes closed, so I'm not looking at you. And probably everybody else does. We just notice this sense of containment. Again, I told you my sense of, when I'm feeling that sense of self-pity or having tough feelings or struggle, sometimes it's a feeling of spinning off. And I like this idea of like, okay, it's kind of grounding. And when I don't have someone to hug me, it's kind of a hugging in of myself. All right, we can breathe our eyes open again. That's another one. How are y'all doing with these? Good? Okay. Okay, I got another one, practice. And then I think, well, let's see here. Actually, I think I'd like to hear a little bit from you and see if there's questions right now. And then I'd like to come back to a body scan practice, and let's do that. It's not vague, it's a great question, and it's right up the alley of self-compassion. It's, you know, there's specific even meditations that some of these big names that I'm gonna share with you do that are free, and you can go on and do them just specifically on self-forgiveness. Like personally, I think the it's a practice, this self-compassion. I mean, you kind of have to start playing around with it. That's why I wanted us to do these things. But what you're speaking to reminds me of, you know, the softening that I have to do when I remember myself and things from my past and things that are difficult for me to remember. I have to forgive. I mean, sometimes I'll say that girl that I was, but you know, it might be, well, I have to forgive that woman that I was, like yesterday, you know. There might have been a moment, it's like, well, I don't like that woman that I was. I don't like that mother that I was. So there's like a softening and a forgiveness for being human. I think the common humanity often can help with the forgiveness. And then this level of like slowing down and pausing, because that's a piece of this too, before we just go, oh, stop being in self-pity. You know, it's like, well, no, let's pause here a little bit, because this is uncomfortable. I think you can then, like, there's the moment of peace you can find where you may be able to find right action, like, you know, to deal with something that you feel like you feel bad about, you know, that forgiveness. Well, again, I think it's you can do both, and you can acknowledge that things happened and there was some victimization, you know, with trauma. Well, you were, okay. So but we can do it without maybe that repetition of staying there, you know, and then go to, it's like, well, what is the right action for that? Well, I'm not drinking, so I'm not abusing myself. Or what is the right action? And if you were with someone else as well, I think this is one of the best. I really like this because it really catches me up when I'm like, how would I be talking to someone else who was sitting here sharing, you know, with their victimization or their trauma or how they were, you know, at one time or what happened to them. I just wouldn't be critical in the way that I would with myself. Yeah, but I encourage you to go to some of the resource page that's going to be shared. I was just looking at Chris Germer's things, and he has specific ones on self-forgiveness and forgiveness. And then were you able to transfer some of those so you had really tender feelings for your dog, I'm sure. Were you able to give yourself some of those when we did the second part? Yeah, great. Well, I took, that is one of the, I mean, many people do it, but I studied Jack Kornfield does that. And what he says is you start with someone super easy to love. All right. Really easy to love. Then you give it to yourself. Then you go to someone that's slightly irritating to you. Someone that you kind of, you know, you're not the biggest fan of, but you're not an enemy. Okay. But they're slightly irritating, and you work with that. And then you take it, you might, after a long time of doing these first three, then you might even take it to your enemy, you know, and as far as this compassion of, you know, expanding this ability of compassion. But you always start with first that easy person to love, we get on board and we understand the sensations of what that is, then ourselves, then then you grow from there. Again, practice, 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 right? It's crucial. And it's just to ask that judge, just give me a little space. You don't even have to shut it down. That's why I like language like turning it down. Let's just turn it down a little bit. Okay. Yeah, I hear the critic. I hear that talk. I'm going to turn it down a little bit, and then I'm going to turn it up a little bit on the kindness, And then the energy. I love the idea of what about, that some of you probably got in touch with some heart, like a feeling in the heart. It's common, at least when people do certain meditations. And the thought of that energy, what if there is a heart intelligence, that there's an ability to extend that out, and your cat feels it. That can be common too. Our animals will come around us, and when there's a good vibe. Let's do another one. I'm going to take you through another one. Okay. And it's a heart awareness. It's a self-compassion, but heart awareness. If you're comfortable, again, no rules about it. But if you're comfortable closing your eyes and bringing that awareness to your breath. The inhale and the exhale. Scan your body. See if there's any area that you've had some discomfort with that you'd like to give some attention to. On the inhale, you can imagine that inhale be a nourishing inhale for your body, or for the space in your body that you've found that needs some attention. And then on the exhale, just a release and a relax. So again, inhaling nourishment and exhaling. See if you can release and relax. You can shrug a shoulder, move around a little bit if you need to. Inhale and the exhale. And I want you to just imagine a slight, kind of an easeful feeling inside of a breeze. Maybe a memory of how you may hold a baby and have a slight, rocking, an easy breeze back and forth. And with that easeful breath, bringing that awareness to your heart area. And our heart's kind of intricate and layered and beautiful. It's a spiral, really, muscle. Just bringing an awareness to your heart. Yeah, you can put your hand on your heart if that helps, bring in that attention. At any time, if your mind goes somewhere else, it's okay. Just bring it back to the heart area. I want you to see if you can call up the idea and imagine again that you have an awareness of the back of your heart. The very back of your heart and the front of your spine. That little space, there's a space in the back of your heart and the front of your spine. The sacred space, the quiet space. You can have a sense of resting in that space. Again, feeling easeful, maybe that sense of rocking, a gentle breeze coming through. And we'll close with the idea of breathing that nourishment in, bringing it into the heart. And you're going to exhale that compassion out to the group here together. You're going to breathe that nourishment in. It's going to fill you up, tend to your insides, and then you're going to have it to exhale and give to others. We'll inhale deeply one more time. And we'll exhale that out to others. And when you're ready, let's breathe your eyes open. That's another way of, just using the body, the sensations in the body. Sometimes are just a note. If it wasn't pleasant for someone, just don't worry. You didn't do anything wrong. It can be a little bit, for some, when you first start things. But yeah, sometimes if it doesn't feel good, again, there's not self-judgment with that. There could be compassion for that. Gosh, I struggle with this. I'm not sure what is that? Why couldn't I do that? So I think we have to, especially with the body sensations, you have to be really gentle and apply the self-compassion to that, be willing to show up again, but maybe show up in a way where you feel more comfortable. Okay. There's another hug. I'll teach you another hug. Okay. And you can watch me for a minute. All right. It's kind of another hug. And you get like this here. Okay. You can close your eyes. And it's a hug that helps us with our container, this vessel, right? We're going to call it a butterfly hug. And you just kind of go do this, all right? And you're recognizing the container of your skin. You're kind of having an awareness of your exterior, but hopefully also a sense of like my insides, okay? Yeah, you can do that a little bit, your exterior, kind of gentle, okay? Noticing that space from your heart inside out to your skin. It's really, again, that heart intelligence, that heart, and we're going to extend it out to our skin. And then we're going to be able to extend it out to others. So again, breathe your eyes open. I want to, and say again, to pay attention, to think about switching from thinking to feeling, having curiosity about sensation and softening. Have you ever had, I just thought of my husband or my daughter, and especially my daughter when she was little, but my husband too, y'all can relate to this. When you can tell you're looking at them mean, or when I'm real tired, when my daughter was little and I'd be really exhausted, she'd go, I'd be like, get in the tub. She'd, Mommy, don't look at me like that. Because I could see that look, I'm mean looking, it's scary. It's like, again, the physical use, the use of to soften, to soften towards ourselves, but to soften from the inside, then out, and then we're going to be able to do it for others. In closing, I wanted to just say that self-compassion cultivates, or it grows that heart muscle. It strengthens the heart muscle. And I feel like that's where, this is a lot of good. I hope I gave you some heady stuff too, like, okay, good definitions and we can remember this. But I like the idea of we're going to drop it down to our heart. We're going to try to live from that place too. So it's a strengthening of this heart muscle, greater compassion for others and less judgment. Chris Germer, who's one of the guys that Katie will put up in a minute, he talks about, and it reminded me of this, okay? He calls self-compassion the next great wave, okay? So it reminds me of Hokusai's great wave. You all know, can you see it? I love this image. It's the great wave. But a kind of a new thing, you know, for us to wash over ourselves. And I just thought we would close with, as we began, we'd close with the Serenity Prayer, but we could all unmute ourselves, say it together, and then we can have some question and answers or commentary, and then Katie's going to share the resources that I have for you, okay? If you've just kind of come across this idea of self-compassion, it can be neat to go to Kristen Neff's site. And if you search on her website, she has a self-compassion test. And it's online. You do it and you can get scored. So you can find out what your self-compassion score is now. And then do some of these practices, kind of hold this in your heart, you know, start kind of thinking this way. You know, 2 months from now, come back and take the test again and see if you've scored better. But often we can be really surprised that, yeah, I mean, I wasn't very surprised how low my score, you know, I didn't do too well the first time I did it, right? But it kind of brings it home of that negative self-talk. But all these Chris Germer, Kristen Neff, great free resources. You can download them to your phone. Have like, there's one that's a 6-minute self-compassion break. Of course, you know, Brene Brown's very generous. Deirdre Fay, for those of you who like the body stuff or even struggling with the body piece, if it brought up any difficult emotions, just to be that in touch with the body. Deirdre Fay is who I follow. And she's really brilliant and does some work called Becoming Safely Embodied. And for people who've gone through trauma, it is a journey. It's a journey to get back into your body. You know, it's hard. And then of course, yeah, Tara Brock and Jack Kornfield. Yeah, thank you everyone for being here. Yeah, y'all are a kind audience. It was nice. Thank you. Thanks for being here.